Hello everyone and welcome to this video where I'm going to be going through my fleet of helicopters and we're going to be seeing some changes that I can make on some of them, pretty much bring the fleet up to date. Now, as I always struggle with, do I make new creations or do I go and fix, revamp, and otherwise mend my previous ones that are no longer working right or have a clear path forward when it comes to upgrades? So the way I kind of look at it is, if I'm going to be doing something that is a major change, consider something like revamping an entire boat, well then I would just release it as a new creation. A good example of that is the Little Scut Mark II. Clearly they're absolutely different builds. They do have some similarities, at least in terms of general shape, but I pretty much redid the entire Little Scut 2 to give it a brand new feature and brand new look, whereas the previously old one, it wasn't even worth it to go and change because it didn't have a display. Like, this was my creation that I first kind of toyed around with submarines. The GTC G1 is an even better example probably because I actually reused the body to some extent as I showed in my video, but I, in essence, revamped the entire drivetrain, microcontrollers, and everything. So pretty much only the basic body shape remains, whereas pretty much everything else is redone. Which brings us back to the helicopters. Now, a lot of people have been asking me, when is the next helicopter update coming? And the way I see it is, since doing the mini sub update, I've kind of got a bit of a knack for this, and I kind of want to update my fleet to make them useful again. Now, I started with the RX92 helicopter. This is the updated version that you can see here. And the reason I started with it is because it's kind of based on my flagship, the RX92, and the 99 is just a little wider, a little longer, a little easier to maneuver, and fits a little more people. So obviously we have our whole fleet of helicopters, including the micro helicopters that can fit on smaller vessels, and then of course the medium-sized one, and then the ones that you'd probably need a bigger boat. So I redid a lot of the systems to make it work right. I did not change the engine. The fundamental drivetrain power is still there, but the one thing I love in Stormworks is helicopters really help you fly around and rescue things, do missions, explore. And my favorite type of boat or ship in this game is a boat with a helicopter. I love those two travel methods, which is counterintuitive to my favorite method, which is cars in real life. But in this game, I kind of tend to lean on this. And I went and revamped the RX99, pretty much taking a look at every single system, taking a look at the usability and fixing it and updating it. For me to update the RX92, I stuck with a bit of a problem. The helicopters look very similar, and part of me was like, alright, let's just make the 99 into the 92, you know, make it a little smaller, narrower, shorter, whatever. But they're, funny enough, entirely different builds. This is a single engined, whereas this one has dual engines, and there are other subtle differences. So while the general shape very similar, it still is quite different. So I'm gonna have to actually re-update this old 92, which even has the old depreciated style of the large rotor and everything like that. So even the 99 doesn't have that, and now we're gonna have to go and fix this one up. This one's gonna have a much more involved gutting process. I do have to remove a lot of these old things. This was my first helicopter, keep in mind. So unfortunately, its systems are pretty bad and very outdated. So just by that logic, what I'm going to do is gut the body, keep the engine, and then start bringing microcontrollers in from the new version. That way I'm going to make sure that it has all the latest microcontrollers while still having the engine and the kind of guts of the thing. With everything deleted, or mostly deleted, now we can get back to plugging in this into this. And sometimes things don't work out as planned. I'm back to taking the RX99 and making it smaller. The other one would have been a full gut at that point. I may as well have made a whole new body because everything had to go, including the electrical that was using the old style spiderweb connections, so I don't want to do that. And the moment of truth now, I can pull it out and pull it in. There we have it. So that is now 2 blocks shorter. And you could see the doorway is now functioning as intended. The other one did not have 3 seats here, and rather the pivot will serve that area there. But now you could see the seats can go there and there. And again, like I said, the pivots can go there. This seat stays there. We may do a little bit of rejigging inside the space, especially considering this most likely can't be here. We have to move that gyro into position, but little changes like that are easier than redoing the whole thing. So let's continue this. And there you have it. The RX92 is complete. As you can see, it has all the functions of the 99, however, much more cramped. So if you are using this, especially rappelling out of here, it will be a little more difficult, but it shouldn't be impossible. Even when you compare the two, they look similar, the RX99 and the RX92, but you can see this one is longer and has a bit of a wider body, whereas this one is shorter, narrower, and of course we know it has one engine inside. Because of that reason, it also has a smaller gas tank capacity, but regardless, the functionality is identical, and even because you have the smaller engine or single engine, your capacity will remain pretty good. You'll still have a good amount of flight within your helicopter. Now, what we can do also is take a look at the back here, where we have this little area that drops open, and then you have that exact same system. So this you can grab and push it out, and as long as it doesn't get stuck and you don't do that, it will eventually come to you. But see, for this reason, I do recommend having the remote control, and then you can actually have that come back down to you. So if you end up in a position like this where you kind of fling off, that's just the limitation of this system, and there's nothing really I can do about it. But the flexibility the system gives us is still much higher than ditching it altogether. The RX92 never actually came out. It's always been kind of in my workshop that I didn't release, but the LX92 did come out. So what I did do is update the LX92, and this is actually live on the workshop right now. So instead of the massive spotlight, it just has 2 lights here, and instead of the harness that can actually tether people, it just has a magall. So if you do want to release this, you open the hatch, release the attachment, and then you have a winch input, which is the magall. So you can actually carry cargo or whatnot with that system. The next little helicopter to get an update, the RX14. Here is the old version. Pretty good. I mean, as far as something that's this small, and I know, like I said, people disliked such a small craft, but I did find it useful in certain applications. Anyways, the current systems, we got this little very simple display, and otherwise kind of a little bit of battery drain. So obviously redid the colors, added the logo, and made a nice new display that's kind of a play on the one that we saw in the larger helicopters, but it just functions a little differently. It has a very, very simple interface. A is altitude, H is horizontal, and V is vertical. So it has that, and it only has a compass, so it tells you kind of which direction you're going. Of course, we do have a compass ball down there, but the combination of that, as well as the coloring scheme, and the fact that I've also made it not have the battery drain, is just a nice little update for the thing. Now, the thing I'm most excited for is the improved compatibility of the various helicopters to be able to be paired with ships and other things. So this helicopter is no different. I do want to have this system where it can attach. Now, if we pull up this, what we have here, and grab it like that, and just copy it over, we can get a feeling for where we expect it should be. Now I do have to delete all this stuff, but there we go. So we can take this, and once it's in position on the center of the helicopter as such, you can see that we have to put them in those locations. So it'll be quite a simple exercise to just grab this, flip it around, and put it there in all the cases. But just like that, we've now made the RX14 compatible with any landing spot that we have the larger helicopters. And ideally at the end, all of the helicopters are going to be interchangeable. That said, some ships won't be able to take the larger helicopters. Obviously, all of them will be able to take the smaller one, but just a simple compatibility thing. And I really do like just a easy compatibility where you can pretty much offer your helicopter up for anyone. Next up, the LX36GH. This is a gyrocopter, and I did some retuning. You can see the old version here, and the new version looks a little cleaner, hopefully. Still the same jelly bean shape, but you could tell that it has these connectors to kind of pair to any place, and inside gave it the updated monitor and just kind of redid some of the systems for it. So what you'll have is something that should function a little bit better overall than the other one. So this is some of the things that I've done. Obviously, the primary concern being functionality and stability. So a lot of things will include the reduced battery consumption if it's just sitting there, and kind of just a touch up on some of the coloring and the controls. I really do love the gyrocopter. Such a nice way to maneuver when it has kind of that forward thrust, even if you don't do anything, but especially if you put an altitude hold and then pitch forward, you'll pick up to like 90 knots, which is awesome. So you'll get going pretty quickly there. The RX12 also got the same treatment, and as you can see in here, it has the same updated display, it has the same updated controls, and it will also not waste large amounts of battery when it is not being used. So it also gets the same thing. Of course, the universal connectors, that's super important, and other than that, here we have it. I am going through and actually updating these creations as I go, so if you do take a look at my workbench or workshop, you'll see that everything is out as I'm working on it. Just like that, the 23 is done. All the same things as the gyrocopter. Obviously does not have the fan at the back, otherwise it is the same, and the last one is going to be the 22 rescue version. Ultimately, I don't feel like redoing the 22. I'm just going to reuse the body of the 23 and make some minor changes, including removing the doors, things that make the 22 what it is. So in essence, it's a very similar craft, just has some slight deviation. Finished all the little helicopters, and now it's only left with the RX118. Now this is a larger creation that has actually a door here in the back and some other features, so it is kind of up to date in a sense that it is decently it is decent as it is, but we'll see what we can do. The exterior is more or less done. I may make some smaller changes, but now I'm taking a look at the interior, and I'm going to bring these displays up to par with the newer versions and some other changes. And while I was doing the programming, I found out that the whole helicopter was actually using the system called the spiderwebs that I call, or at least that I call spiderweb system, and it is a disaster. So to make sure I don't miss anything and mess something up, I have to go and literally remove every single connection in the whole creation and then sort of rewire everything. So not very fun, but hopefully it'll make any future modifications that much easier. And I was going to leave it, but it was actually getting some crazy battery drain, and I didn't even want to bother trying to decipher where it's possibly coming from. So I'm just going to start from scratch and pretty much wire it properly. There we have it. Every single connection is removed. Actually, nope, missed some down there and here. And now I have my breakers, which are right here, and I get to start pretty much connecting things. To start, I always select one battery to kind of be my main battery, and from there I hold control and select my other batteries kind of as my starting bit. And once that's done, then that node becomes my hot or my A electric on all my breakers. So that comes directly out of the battery. Now I think I should have some more batteries. I did build this so long ago, so if there are not, then I may be able to add some, because that could also be the explanation to why they were draining so fast if there's only like 4 or 5 large batteries, or small batteries. Another thing I always plug into my batteries directly are the doors and door pivots, just because I want these to always function no matter what, pretty much. You know, you have to consider that a creation like this, without the doors opening, you can get trapped and stuck, and that's absolutely not what we want to have here. Now I have a relay here that I'm going to plug into my gyro. I'm going to plug it into my distance sensors, and here as well to my laser. So those things are ones that potentially can cause draining of battery. So first things first, you can see that the batteries are not draining unless I actually use something. So that's a very good sign. All my breakers here are on. That means that hopefully my relay is working properly. And here we have our displays with the new style display here, and over here I actually have a combination of cameras that have both the mode to control them and the switch mode. Now obviously this camera right over there may not be plugged in. Yeah, it's 0 battery, so I'll have to fix that up. But the helicopter seems good to go now, so I can slowly give some throttle and see if everything is working. This is kind of like a little trial run, but you could see that overall the unit looks much better now. Matches kind of the OMA search and rescue style much better, and the whole thing just functions way better, which is always a good thing. The last thing to do is a final test with all the lights, all that stuff, just to make sure that now with all these changes, we actually capture our latest working system. So now you can see that display works. If we take a look at the actual exterior, all the lights should be working. Now, of course, some things may be missed. That's just the nature of the game, but overall, it seems to be functioning quite nicely. Another thing I did do in here is actually make a much simpler system for the cargo. I thought it was always a little overwhelming when it just had a bunch of stuff kind of scattered all over the place. So this works a little nicer, as you can see. And of course, we have that beautiful entry into the back of the helicopter. So there you have it. The whole lineup has been refreshed. Every helicopter from my smallest all the way to my largest have been updated so they don't have random battery drain. The systems have been updated, and I've added a system of connectors that can be utilized to give us kind of an easy way to pair it with any creation. But I do want to see if I can add the connectors on the bottom of the rescue helicopter in the same arrangement that they would be for all the others. Now for this one, because we have landing gear and stuff, I'm just going to make it facing down like this. But let's see if it's even possible, because it would have to be somewhere where it doesn't interfere with the systems, and it would have to be somewhere where it can be kind of central. Obviously, if you land on a craft that can't take this, because this is a much longer helicopter, but you never know. So I think somewhere like there should be okay. Just make sure that beneath are only regular blocks. So if that's the case, for all of these 4, then we're good to go. So that actually means we can move this right into the bottom of the helicopter, just like that. And of course have to attach it to kind of our free the helicopter system here. We got to put some sort of button in the cockpit. I can foresee some potential clash with the ship deck and this radar, so we'll have to test to see if this connection system actually works. It was always my end goal to make the Adria and Vala and all my ships utilize that system, so we can test out here with the big helicopter to see how that works. So I've prepared this to sort of serve as the major or the only connectors that are needed, and then you can plop any helicopter right on the landing pad there. So if we place these here, pair them in with the rest of the creation, and then of course I'll need to add the electric power. And again, this spiderweb system drives me absolutely crazy, but it is what it is. And then the other thing is over here in the little control room is the release for this system, so we can plug that into those. And I think I even have a couple of these that are going to tell us whether or not the thing is activated. So there we have it. And then of course I can delete the old ones because now they're no longer used. And this should be all we need to have on every creation, and we could park any helicopter here. The Adria originally came with the RX99, so you could see here the 99 when attached to these connectors, just like that, fits perfectly. So I did pair the 118. I did have to delete some of the crane because this thing was too big, but let's see. Yeah, so with this style of connector, we still don't hit our radar and our landing gear. So we can actually park this massive helicopter on the Adria and drive around with it as it is. Now, it won't come stock with this helicopter, but if you do move this crane out of the way, I'm sure you'll be able to land it on this ship. So there you have it, a video where I updated every single one of my helicopters. It was a pretty big activity. It took all day Sunday, but I'm quite happy with the update. And of course, I think something like this is quite useful to everybody because now you can use these helicopters interchangeably on my creations once I get them updated. So thank you all for watching. Stay tuned for more videos, stay tuned for more creations and all kinds of good stuff. Until next time, happy Stormworksing everyone.